Anime monster retrains make a ton of sense in the context of any Yu-Gi-Oh series. If you have a protagonist that has a couple monsters that they're known for, it makes sense to upgrade them as the seasons of the show continue on, so they're not always using the same base version. We've seen 50 different versions of Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon and Stardust Dragon and all of those iconic monster cards, and people really enjoy that. I mean, even to this day, we are still getting more Dark Magician and Blue Eyes upgrades. That's not anything new. However, when we're looking at the Dark Magician upgrades and the Blue Eyes upgrades and a lot of the other anime upgrades, they don't always get it right. I mean, of course, they're cool looking, of course, they're fun to play with, and of course, in the context of the anime, they have this big, exciting moment. But it's really difficult to do all of that and also have the card be competitively viable in the physical trading card game. And that's where number 39 Utopia steps in. This has a bunch of retrains, a bunch of upgraded versions, and a lot of them, like a surprising amount of them, have been super competitively viable over the years. In today's video, I can't possibly cover every single upgraded version of this card because there's simply too many of them for one discussion, but I am going to focus on a bunch of really powerful Utopia retrains, all of which saw tons of competitive play. But first, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Ridge Wallets. Ridge makes sleek, minimalist wallets that are the perfect upgrade from your old, bulky leather wallet that you've been carrying around for years. There's over 30 different colors and styles to choose from, including the awesome carbon fiber option that I've been using. The cards easily slide out to give you access to whichever one you need. There's even a convenient money clip on the back for carrying cash. Ridge wallets even have a lifetime warranty, so you'll never need to buy another wallet, and the Ridge team is so confident that you'll like it that they'll let you try it out for 45 days and you can send it back for a full refund if you don't absolutely love it. If you're interested in picking up a Ridge wallet, make sure to click the link in the description below, and don't forget to use promo code Dzeeff in all capital letters for 10% off your order. One of the things that you might not know if you weren't playing back in 2011 is that number 39 Utopia, the base version, actually was a competitively viable card for quite a while. This is a light warrior rank 4 monster that says when a monster declares an attack, you can attach one material from this card to negate the attack. If this card is targeted for an attack while it has no material, destroy this card. Also, it has 2,500 attack points and 2,000 defense points. Now here's the thing, if you're someone that's only been playing a couple of years, you might look at this card and go, how is this ever competitively viable? It might even be confusing, especially if you're only used to modern Yu-Gi-Oh, that this thing actually required a downside of just blowing up if it has no material and is targeted for an attack. Because honestly, if number 39 Utopia was printed right now without the drawback, it probably wouldn't be played. Right now, it's pretty much only played as a card that you can summon the other monsters in today's video on top of. But for a while, this thing was a one of in almost every single deck playing level 4 monsters, and sometimes even a 2 of in a lot of decks. It's really weird when you go back and look at when Xyz monsters first came out, because while you did have monsters like number 39 Utopia that are pretty laughable right now, you also had some really powerful cards even by today's standards. Things like Levier the Sea Dragon and things like the Evolzars, all of which are still played even in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, depending on which deck you're looking at, which is really impressive. So for a while, all we had as far as Utopia goes was the original version, and that was completely fine. It wasn't until January of 2012 with Order of Chaos when we got the first upgraded version of Utopia, and man was this card good. Number C39 Utopia Ray, the Chaos 39 as some people might call it, is a rank 4 warrior light monster with 2,500 attack and 2,000 defense, so already pretty similar to the original Utopia, which as you'll see in this video is a pretty common theme. This one though, instead of taking any 2 level 4 monsters, is a little bit more specific. This takes 3 level 4 light monsters, and let me tell you, that's not really worth it in most cases. How you want to be summoning this thing is with its own effect, which says you can also Xyz summon this card by using a number 39 Utopia you control as the Xyz material. Xyz materials attached to that monster also become Xyz materials on this card. But besides the summoning requirement, the other effects are really strong. This thing says you can attach one Xyz material from this card, it gains 500 attack, and one monster your opponent controls loses 1,000 attack until the end phase. You must have 1,000 life points or less to activate and to resolve this effect. Now keep in mind here, that is not a once per turn effect in any way, shape, or 4 form. It is not a soft once per turn, it's not a hard once per turn. As long as you have material, you can keep detaching them to keep lowering your opponent's monster's attack and keep increasing your own. So how does this work? I mean, how does this actually become a successful card? Because honestly, by 2020 standards, this card isn't that impressive. Well, basically think of this card as a rank 4 Boral Sword Dragon, which does make it sound pretty darn effective. Let's say you summon this thing while you have less than 1,000 life points, which is pretty much the only time you should summon it, and your opponent has one Blue Eyes White Dragon in attack mode. Pretty scary, right? Well, assuming you use 2 level 4 monsters to make Utopia and then instantly upgraded it into this card, you can then detach all 3 of those materials, and the Blue Eyes goes to 0 attack and your card goes to 4,000 attack points. So basically, you guys can already see how this thing was like a Boral Sword Dragon. It meant that if your opponent got you to 1,000 or less life points but couldn't quite do that last amount of damage, you very often could summon this card and totally turn the duel around. You can kind of see here how they took an anime moment of being really low on life points and having this huge comeback card, and they sort of applied it to a real card in the physical trading card game that actually was able to replicate those anime moments in real life at high profile tournaments. As we got better and better rank 4s over the years, we saw these cards get used less and less. Things like number 101, Silent Honor Arc, and Castell simply are way better than summoning either one of these cards, and while it is true they might not be able to do as much damage on their own, they're just better cards for the most amount of situations, so people pretty much just stopped playing Utopia altogether. That was up until we got number S39 Utopia The Lightning in 2016. This is a level 5 light warrior Xyz monster that takes 3 level 5 light monsters to make the normal way. However, just like in the case of Utopia Ray, you can just summon this thing right on top of Utopia. This thing says you can also Xyz summon this card by using a rank 4 Utopia monster you control as material, transfer its materials to this card, so very similar to Utopia Ray. Please note, and this will come up in a couple minutes, I'll mention it, that this card does not require the original number 39 Utopia as material. It only requires a rank 4 Utopia monster. We'll talk about that in a second. Cannot be used as material for an Xyz summon, and also, if this card battles, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. Once per chain during damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster while this card has a Utopia Xyz material as material, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card. This card's attack becomes 5,000 during that damage calculation only. By 2016 standards, this was one of the best Xyz monsters that you could summon against a variety of matchups. Both of its abilities here matter a lot. Going to 5,000 attack is insane because it means it can attack over almost any monster in the game for the most part, but also the fact that your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step is a huge deal. There were so many different cards that this thing could just run over and your opponent wouldn't have a chance to use their effects, basically making it a 5,000 attack Armades that you can summon with any 2 level 4 monsters to make Utopia and then upgrade into this. These abilities, by the way, don't just trigger when this card attacks, it just triggers when it battles, which means even if you summon this card and don't immediately have something you want to use its effect on, your opponent is still going to have a tough time dealing with it. What makes this card really interesting though is the fact that I mentioned earlier where you don't have to use the original Utopia for its materials, it just has to be a rank 4 Utopia monster. The reason that matters is that there is a card called number S39 Utopia Prime that actually came out before Lightning. It came out in 2015 in Cross Souls, and this thing says you can also Xyz summon this card by using number 39 Utopia you control as Xyz material, and of course the materials transferred to it. This thing's pretty interesting just in general. It has 2,510 attack points and 2,000 defense, and it says if your opponent's life points are at least 3,000 higher than yours, you can attach 3 Xyz materials from this card, which you'll probably have, and pay life points so that you only have 10 left to destroy as many special summon monsters your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, banish them, then inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each monster banished. Now, why is this thing so interesting? Well, it's interesting for 2 reasons. That effect is pretty cool, especially when you're behind. It reminds me a lot of Utopia Ray because you have to be pretty low on life points and it could steal some games, but even without being low on life points, you can use this card as a stepping stone into Utopia the Lightning. Why does that matter? Well, that gives gives Utopia the Lightning 4 materials instead of 3, which means you can get that 5,000 attack effect off twice instead of just one time. That is a big difference, and you would actually see in 2016 and even 2017 people playing the original Utopia and Utopia Prime and Utopia the Lightning all in the same extra deck. Later on in 2016, 4 months after the release of Utopia Lightning, we got a new Utopia upgrade, number S0 Utopic Zexal. Now this card is really weird looking. First off, it doesn't actually have a rank on the card. This decision was not a gameplay decision, it was an artistic decision, as you'll see in a moment when we get to its effect. This thing has question mark attack and question mark defense. It is a warrior light monster that takes 3 number Xyz monsters with the same rank to summon the normal way. Now realistically you're not going to be doing that, but let's take a look at its effects. This thing is always considered a rank 1 monster, which is what I was saying where I said it wasn't a gameplay choice because it is basically just a rank 1, but it doesn't have a rank on the card artwork, which is kind of cool. You can also Xyz summon this card by discarding 1 rank up magic normal spell card, then using a Utopia monster you control as the Xyz material. Transfer its Xyz materials to this card, of course. This card's Xyz summon cannot be negated. When Xyz summoned, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated, gains 1000 attack and defense for each Xyz material attached to it. Once per opponent's turn, as a quick effect, you can attach 1 Xyz material from this card. Your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated this turn. Now, I recently discussed this card because it actually was featured in a couple different combos. It actually took a while for this card to be competitively viable. One of the biggest first showings for it was in 2018 in Pendulum Editions. It even got second at a YCS. You would do this crazy combo where you would send rank up magic Argent Chaos Force with Beatrice to the graveyard, and then you could summon Gaia Charger and add the Argent Chaos Force back to your hand with its own effect. And then if you summoned a number 39 Utopia, you could discard the Argent Chaos Force and special summon Utopic Zexal, effectively locking your opponent out of the game. Some recent cards were announced for the OCG that we'll eventually get in the TCG that make this card incredibly easy to summon on turn 1, even easier than the combo that I just described. So I'm pretty sure this card in the future will be banned at some point, but for right now it's still legal and currently isn't seeing a lot of play because Konami, instead of banning this card, banned the Argent Chaos Force. But in the future they won't even need the Argent Chaos Force to really perform the normal combo, which makes this thing really scary. So maybe when you're watching this video it'll actually be banned, but for right now it's just a good card that saw play in a couple different decks and a lot of people are thinking we'll see play in the future. Double or Nothing is a quick play spell card first released in Generation Force, which was the very first core set after Xyz monsters were introduced into the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. And for a very long time this card was basically just garbage. I mean, it was pretty much unplayably bad. It says when a monster's attack is negated, target that monster. It can make a second attack during this battle phase, and if it does, its attack is doubled during the damage step only. And by 2011 standards, this card was pretty much useless. I mean, sure, your opponent might negate your attack, I guess, with some random card, but realistically the only way you would really use this card in 2011 was with your own Utopia. You would attack with the Utopia and then negate its own attack with its own effect, and then you would use Double or Nothing to put it to 5,000. That combo is kind of cool, kind of interesting, but realistically not very strong, and it wouldn't be until 2019 with number 39 Utopia Double that Double or Nothing would finally be a competitively viable card. It even got players like Jesse Cotton to Worlds in one of the craziest feature matches that I've ever seen in my entire life. Number 39 Utopia Double is a rank 4 warrior light monster, of course. It has 0 attack points and 2500 defense. This thing takes 2 level 4 monsters, and it says, quick effect, you can attach 1 material from this card, add 1 Double or Nothing from your deck to your hand, then special summon from your extra deck 1 Utopia Xyz monster except number 39 Utopia Double by using this face-up card you control as material, and if you do, its attack becomes doubled, but it cannot attack directly. This is treated as an Xyz summon, transfer its materials to the summoned monster. You can only use its effect of number 39 Utopia Double once per turn. The combo is pretty straightforward. You just attach 1 material from this thing to add that Double or Nothing to your hand, and then you summon the original Utopia right from your extra deck on top of Utopia Double. From there, while in the battle phase, which keep in mind the Utopia is now at 5,000 attack points, you attack once, and then kind of like how Double or Nothing was intended intended to be used way back in 2011, you negate your own attack. However, in this case, the Utopia is not going from 2,500 to 5,000 attack, it's going from 5,000 to 10,000 attack points for that second attack. Now with this combo, if your opponent has even one monster with 2,000 or less attack points on the field, you can one-shot them for all 8,000 of their life points just with this single combo. This combo has made huge waves on the competitive tournament landscape in decks like Sky Strikers and Lunalights, and it's even featured in a variety of rogue strategies playing level 4 monsters like Trap Tricks. Until we get a better retrain for different types of strategies, this will probably be the most likely area to see number 39 Utopia played in 2020. People like this combo a lot, and people are still playing it right now in a variety of rank 4 strategies. By modern Yu-Gi-Oh standards, number 39 Utopia by itself is not very good and hasn't been very good for quite a while. However, because it keeps getting retrains and keeps getting really strong upgraded forms, the card still remains relevant even almost a decade after its original TCG release. Keep in mind, after I mention all of these different upgrades and retrains of Utopia in today's video, that there are actually even more of them that have seen play in other decks that have also topped tournaments. Utopia might not have the most amount of retrains out there of all of the iconic anime monsters, but certainly in terms of how many of them are really good, it probably has the best ratio of good retrains versus bad retrains out of any iconic anime monster. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching today's discussion video on number 39 Utopia and many of its great retrains. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.